This man is trying to get his things moved to a new house and hires this choosing beggar to do the job. But when the choosing beggar decides to make outrageous accusations, they decide to get the police involved. When asked for some help, this man does what he can for his CB friend, but then the CB starts demanding that the quality of work be professional without being willing to pay for it. This person is trying to sell some things online when they encounter a CB. But when they're not happy with what they see, what tricks do they use to try and get an even cheaper price? You'll only find out by watching this episode of VoiceyHere's Choosing Beggars. This story was called Moving Guy Wanted Pay for Doing No Moving. A few weeks ago, I decided to hire 3 moving guys for a few hours to move as much as they could into a pod I rented. I mostly wanted them to get a few large furniture items from upstairs down into the pod, as it is just myself, 16-month-old son, and a pregnant wife. They were scheduled to show up at 10 AM and work 2 hours until noon, at which point I had a code I would give them and they would get paid for their work. Super easy. Have used this service before. I took off and got a trailer for my Jeep in case there was any overflow to take things we would need before the pod arrived. I get back to the house at 9:30 AM, 30 minutes before they are set to arrive, and they had been there for 15 minutes, already talking to my wife. This is how it went down the moment I walked in the door. These mover guys have been lecturing me for 15 minutes on how they can't do their job correctly unless they have shrink wrap for the couch. Well, I got 4 packages of moving blankets, and that should be more than enough to do things in the pod. We can't guarantee you things won't get scratched a little if we don't have shrink wrap. That's fine. I mostly hired you guys to get the heavy stuff in the pod and pack what you can in during the time you are here. Okay, boss. He then gives me this weird salute. He then tells his 2 guys, both young dudes there, to just move stuff and get the job done. To move stuff downstairs, as I had hired them to move heavy stuff downstairs. I would say a solid 10 minutes go by before my wife comes storming into the garage, where I was packing last minute items, visibly mad and at her wit's end. They said they won't move the gun safe until we open it and prove there are no guns in there. I had locked the key in an ammo box that was already packed. Just tell them to leave it and I'll do it later. It is not a high quality one and one person can move it with a dolly very easily. Think drying machine. 2 seconds later, the head moving guy comes storming out to the garage as well, visibly flustered, and says he can't move anything more because of hostile working conditions. Apparently my wife said in passing that we hired 2 high school kids one time and they moved all our stuff in a few hours, and he thought that was the biggest affront to his abilities that she could have possibly done. I'm gonna need cash or check up front to finish this job, or I'm going to have to charge my 2-hour minimum and leave. Conveniently the same amount as if they did the work. Well, I will pay you after you do your job through the moving service as agreed upon. I'm assuming at this point he looks for any excuse to cut out the middleman and get paid directly, and does this often. At this point, after working in these conditions and lacking the proper supplies needed, shrink wrap, I can't complete the job and will need my 2-hour minimum. I can see the pod from where I'm standing, empty, and they had been there 45 minutes. You guys haven't even loaded a single thing into the pod, and you've been moving things from room to room and telling my pregnant wife she is hostile and unprofessional. I can see you're stressed. Who wouldn't be moving? But we can't work with there and lacking the correct supplies. Look man, you can finish the job I hired you to do and you will get paid at the end of the job. Or you can get off my property and I will hire someone else. That's actually called theft of service, and the police will come out to arrest you if you don't pay my 2-hour minimum. That's not how that works. And if you have your lawyer's contact info, I'll be glad to let mine know he will have some work soon. Really bro? You would pay a lawyer over just paying me and my guys my minimum? If you don't, we'll have to call the police for theft of service. He used this term like 80 times, assuming it works for him usually. Okay, you can get off my property and I am calling the police. I hope that was the clue he needed that I wasn't going to give in to his scam, but he was sticking to his guns. Amazingly, the sheriff's department showed up in record time, about 20 minutes, and started talking to this guy. My wife insisted on talking to the officer since she had the most contact with the guy, so she did first, then me. Shockingly, not doing a job you were hired to do, then demanding money, is not theft of service. The poor officer was out in front of our house talking to the guy for almost 2 hours, yelling at my neighbors about how cheap we are and demanding we pay his workers $100 since we held him up so long. After bringing us weird contracts saying, I agree to pay $100 because I demand the impossible, they finally left without a red cent. Funny thing is, if they had just done their job, they would have been out there an hour earlier with $200 in their pockets. We couldn't find any mover available on such short notice, so I ended up moving everything myself. It took me all day, and I was pretty much dead by the end of it. But that choosing beggar didn't get his money for nothing. I did learn not to hire the cheapest movers. More you spend, less crazy comes with it. I think that's one of those unfortunate truths in the reality we live in, is something can seem like such a good deal because it's cheaper, and it seems like the same value. But when you take a closer look, it's a cheaper price for a very good reason. That's why when you find something for a cheap price but that's of the same value, it's like a miracle. Oh, how many times I've bought generic brand potato chips, only to completely regret my mistake. This story was called, "It's Just Talking. Why do you need money for talking?" On a rare occasion, usually about 3 times a year, I'll get a call from a friend who owns a recording studio here in the city. He'll need someone with the right voice to do a voiceover for a company presentation, a fundraising campaign, sometimes a video game and even an audiobook. I've been told I have a voice fitting somewhere between Carl Sagan and Bob Ross, when I put the effort in. These gigs take a few hours every time. The client pays the studio, and they pay about $60 to $100 a time to me, depending on the client. It's pocket money, nothing more. But it's my time, and I'm darned if I'm giving it away. So anyway, a friend of my significant other gets wind of this, and she often asks me to just rattle off a 30-second speech for her kid, to help him practice for school or some presentation. English is not their first language, and as it's 100 words at most, no problem. Recording on smartphones is easy. And then, one day, it's not a 30-second clip for a spelling bee or whatever, it's several pages of text for a state-level speaking competition. CB knows that on occasion I record professionally.
Hey, I need you to record something for me.
Me thinking it'll be a 30-second job. Sure, shoot me the file. File received. Wow, that's going to take a while. I'll have to do it in sections because the file will get too large.
Okay, can you do it by paragraphs so there are pauses in the right places?
I think so. Hold on, this is about 1,000 words long, and some of the words are pretty out there for your son's level. I don't think the quality is going to be that great.
Your significant other told me your friend has a studio. Can you do it there?
I don't think so, sorry. This is small, but they charge by the hour or part hour, and then they pay me. I suspect you don't want to pay their rates. It's probably expensive.
Why? It's just talking. Why do you need money for talking?
They have professional equipment, a sound engineer, the works. I can just do a voice memo. The quality won't be great, but it'll be fine to practice from.
Are you kidding me? This is for state final. It has to be 100% perfect so my son can get everything right.
Surely he's done well enough so far on the back of what I've given him before, so he should be golden, yeah?
You don't understand how important this is. You need to record this professionally.
Alright, I'll put you in contact with the studio and let them quote you. Tell them I recommended you and hopefully they'll cut the fees down.
No, I'm not paying money for this. It's just talking.
Well, the best we can do is me recording on my cell phone.
You are not listening. Why are you being difficult? My son needs this. You need to call your studio and tell them to record it.
I can't tell them to do anything. They don't work for free. I've already done a few recordings for you. I'm sure... Cutting me off.
You just don't want to help.
Slams the phone down. Then the significant other cracks onto me about refusing to help her friend. I think I'm still technically supposed to be sleeping on the couch. They always have to push the limit of generosity, don't they? She basically gives it away too because she says, oh, I don't want to pay for it because it's just talking. And yet she literally says, you need to record this professionally. The difference between somebody being a professional and an amateur is the fact that they get paid for the work that they're doing. So for him to do it professionally, by definition, means she needs to pay for it. So she's contradicting herself to say, I want it done professionally, but I also don't want to pay for it. And as somebody who is now a professional voiceover artist, I take personal offense to this choosing beggar. This story was called, I Don't Care That You Drove 2.5 hours. This incident happened yesterday. I've got some old rabbit cages that I'm not using anymore up for sale. They're in good condition, only a few years old, and included feed dishes with them. I had them posted for about $200 or best offer, well under what they're worth. But I figured it was fair, considering their age and the fact that they could use a couple touch-ups in terms of rust, and maybe a power spray. And admittedly, they had some staining on the trays. I posted good quality pictures and asked anyone who contacted me if they wanted more information. So CB contacts me over Facebook Messenger. First, she asks me if I got them from a kit. Weird, I thought, but whatever. I told her no. I got them from a friend who had only had them a very short term, but that they had gotten them from someone who custom made them in the area. Then, without any other questions or request for more pictures, or an offer on an alternative price, she asks me if I could come see them. She mentions she's coming from 2.5 hours away. I say sure. She could come see them anytime the next day, yesterday. I figured she was coming up my way anyways, because who drives over 2 hours just to see something they aren't even sure they want? I give her my address and cell number, so yesterday rolls around and I get a message that she's on the way, and a couple hours later, that she's arrived. Choosing Beggar comes in, takes one look at the cages that I pulled out for her and starts sighing, and immediately starts saying in an extremely harsh tone that she can't believe how dirty they are. I told her that's why they were priced lower, and also that I'm currently injured. Horseback riding accident, torn meniscus, messed up my shoulders too, and shouldn't even be moving them around alone, let alone dragging them around to deep clean them. She's not happy about this, and says, "I have $300 white rabbits. I cannot put them in dirty cages. I'd have to clean them when I get home." I didn't even know what to say. I just stood there sort of panicking, anxiety disorder, and sort of livid. They're used rabbit cages. Would you not have cleaned them before putting your animals in there anyways? Regardless of if they're spotless or not? Man, I clean everything before I put it near my animals, new or used. So after she's done opening all the doors, pulling the trays around, and going on and on about the non-existent rabbit crap and fur, she goes, "I'll give you $70 for them." Excuse me? Remember, she never offered an alternative price in messages or asked for any other details. I said no way would I take $70. I explained again why I priced them the way they were, and the lowest I would go is $150. Then she looks to her husband, who is sitting there quiet the whole time, and goes, "I knew these were rusty. My friend told me about these cages and she said they had rust on them." What? First of all, a friend? I was completely transparent with the ad. I could have told you they had rust if you couldn't see it in the pictures. And if you knew they were rusty and that's the problem, then why would you even want to see them? At this point, I was just ticked off and wanted her to leave. But then she goes, "Fine, I'll give you $100. Nope. I declined. Told her again no less than $150. She goes, $120 and that's my final offer. Nope. Now she's even madder. Starts complaining again and goes, "I've had rabbits for over 30 years, honey." I rolled my eyes. First, don't call me that. Second, I don't care how long you've had rabbits. Your attitude is crap. She complains some more, throws her hands around one last time and says, $120. I say no, and she has the audacity to say, "You made me drive over 2 hours for this?" I reminded her I did not ask her to come out here. She wanted to see them and I said sure. Where in her twisted mind she got the idea that I made her come see them is beyond me. She asks, $120? Once more. I decline once more. She finally storms out of my house muttering, "Waste of time." Slams my door and leaves. I immediately blocked her. I hate selling things online. From my anecdotal experience, I'd say about 70 to 80% of experiences buying or selling online have been positive, but you do get that 20 to 30% that are just nightmares. If you're gonna spend 2.5 hours driving to see something, you better guarantee that you know what you're getting into, because they don't owe you anything. They're not gonna compensate your time if you don't want it. Have you had a bad experience trying to buy or sell something online? Let me know in the comments below, or share your story at r/VoiceyHere. If you'd like your story to be narrated by me, don't forget to visit the subreddit r/VoiceyHere, link below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.